me, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so as we said, many thanks to all of you who made it your business to come back here again today. As we are all aware, we're here for a seminar at SCS, which is a regular routine on a monthly basis. SCS is the School of Continuing Studies. For now we are, an online platform where we give the opportunity to lifelong learners, and we bring people from diverse backgrounds to come and share with us their own expertise and their own experiences in particular fields. In the past, we have had people from the nursing background, from the information technology, and we've had people who started professional football coach and professional, second language acquisitions and stuff. So today we're gonna have our own brother, Alfred David. Alfred is a Liberian, currently based in the United States. He's a researcher, an educator, somebody who started from here at the University of Liberia, and then got a scholarship to China. Now he's in the US, and he has always been in the economic or taxes and taxations and stuff. So we're going to have him today to give us some hands-on experiences and how we can all better up our own society, because the growth of Liberia, the development of this country, lies in the hands of this particular generation. I mean, not like I'm boasting about it, but I mean, you all are witnesses to it. Almost all of us, or some of us who are currently in these areas, are people who are like qualified or even much more qualified than some of the people that are handling the country affairs right now. So if we get to share ideas how we can be able to improve on certain things, make certain things better, we will be eventually able to improve the development of our country. So Alfred, you are welcome. And I mean, I'm the co-founder. Dr. Wiako is the founder of the School of Continuing Studies. And thank you so much for being with us, and the platform is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity given to me. And thanks to also the organizer or the founder of this platform.
Right.
I think it's another way, giving back to Mama Liberia in your own way. And as Samuel said, and I'm Alfred, currently I'm in the US, serving as graduate assistant, studying in agribusiness economics. But before then, I got a master's degree in international financial and tax law. So today we are going to be talking about economic growth through tax planning and agriculture. I just like having to blend the two, because I feel that, and I know that through tax we also be able to grow, economically, and through also agriculture, which have been like a normal thing that have been over and over in the past. Even if you happen to like see other great nations, which is the US and other things, and other nations, they usually they have before they begin great, they have agriculture as a main factor in terms of economic growth. So today our objective for today's lecture or this discussion will be, and these I don't need to read them so that you can see it. So these are things that we'll be talking about, and as how if after here maybe you might be able to tell someone what tax planning is about, what about taxes we have in Liberia, what are some of the problems, and I remember when my thesis was about the proposal I just that we have here. How can we expand economic growth? This is one of the means that we can expand economic growth. And now my focus is on agriculture. What are some of the things that what are some of the things that we can do in order to? We know that majority of our people in Liberia live on subsistence farming, or most of them are farmers. So I begin with the first stuff, why taxes in the first place. So why we talk about taxes? If you having to go back and check how taxes came about, you will realize that taxes came about when most government or most developed countries by then, because during those days in human history, we usually fighting hard to conquer other people. In order to do that, government needed resources to do that. So they begin to contemplate on what can we do in order to help those who want to fight, or help to support those who are fighting on our side. That's how taxes came about. So when government started taxes first, it was not about everyone. It was a few individuals, those who have the ability to pay. Even up to today, that's how the tax principle is based on ability to pay. So that's how tax came about. And if you see, here are some key reasons why taxes exist. We get we put in place taxation in terms of revenue generation for public services. So you cannot put people in certain places, you don't be able to pay them. We also have taxes because of redistribution of wealth. And if you know that we have factor of production, everyone cannot own land, everyone cannot have a capital, everyone cannot be able to have labor. So if someone have the capital, someone can be able to provide labor and other things. So in that one, government collect revenue, they can be able to redistribute the wealth. And taxes is also about economic stability. So by redistributing, you also stabilizing the economy.
Come.
Can you put mute the noise from the background?
Oh yeah, that's true. Let me try to see if Jackson can mute it. Augustine, can you hear me? Can you lower your? Can you mute your mic? Okay, that's good. That's good.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it so much. So we also talk about public goods, infrastructure, like roads, public buildings, schools, and other things. These are some of the reasons that taxes exist, etc., etc. So we know that taxes are meant to do those things. Yeah. Statutes are meant to do those things. So, but what is tax planning? So every year, but tax planning is a process, or we refer to tax planning as a process of organizing financial affairs in a way that it minimizes your tax liability within a legal framework. Like in Liberia, RIA is responsible to collect taxes. They do that in order to minimize our tax liability within a legal framework. It involves making strategic decisions and taking advantage of available resources, available tax deductions, credits, exemptions, and other provisions to optimize our tax situation. So as an individual, we always want to take, loopholes. Let me just use the word loophole in order to minimize our taxes. So, and tax avoidance is legal, tax evasion is illegal. So we usually use tax avoidance, some of the loopholes. Like for instance, in the United States here, if you happen to buy something and you resell it, the gain on that, if you don't want to pay, you can defer the tax payment on that. Maybe by reinvesting the entire amount into another, into another purchasing of another good. In that, you can be able to defer your taxes for another year. So that's another reason for tax planning. So what are the primary and the secondary objective of tax planning? The primary purpose of tax planning or the effective tax planning is about maximizing taxpayers' wealth. So what do I mean by that? Taxes are imposed on individual or we as a taxpayer. It's not that to suppress, or is that is the way government collect revenue, but in doing that, government cannot use that to suppress its citizens. So taxes should be structured in a way that people can be able to pay, and after people pay, those amount that will be left with them shouldn't be like something that will suppress them. So taxes are usually, or tax planning are usually that to maximize taxpayer wealth after tax. And the secondary objective is to reduce or defer, as I said earlier, or to eliminate the entire tax as a whole. And you do that by other means in the tax law, like the ARA, code, or even yet in the US they have in the Internal Revenue Code. And in those regulations and rules, they have some loop area where because government want for people to establish businesses that be able to employ people, so they create loopholes that will help entrepreneur to make use of those loopholes in the tax system, that they be able to defer or eliminate the entire tax as a whole. So now back we are Liberia, because most of what we are talking will be like related to Liberia. Liberia being a third world country, and we have a lot of challenges back home. So we'll focus on the tax system of Liberia. So in Liberia, these are some of the taxes that we have. Personal income tax, that one, those who are working with government, and private entities, they usually, government usually levy, personal income tax on them, and it ranges from 0 to 30%. So 30% become the higher bracket. So those who pay more, they pay more. So it's like a progressive tax system. The higher you make, the more you pay. And we have also the corporate income tax. Generally is like 25% in general business. And I think around the world, even in the US, you know, corporations they are usually like have dual tax system. The government tax the corporation as an individual because corporations have, you know, a characteristics of individual because corporation can be able to sue and they can also sue corporations. So government use that to tax the corporation and any distribution of dividend to corporation or to shareholders, that amount is also taxed. So that's the dual, you know, stuff there. And we have like value added tax, VAT, and is around 10%. And VAT is just like every stage of, you know, production, every value that's added, government usually level, you know, a specific tax and like 10%. We have capital gain, and capital gain is like, for instance, you bought, you know, a real estate in Liberia, or someone sold their house to you, and you bought the house. Maybe just assume that you bought the house for 25,000 US dollar, and later on you were so lucky, or because of your, you know, your expertise in the real estate, you were able to sell the house for 30,000. The extra 5,000 that you got, which is the gain, government will also, you know, level tax on that. 25% as a Liberian and 30% non-Liberian. And we have property taxes. Those who own property in Liberia, government also level tax. We have custodians, those who bring stuff from other countries to Liberia, and we have tax incentives. So with all of that, you know, there's a, you know, a lot of problem with, you know, Liberian tax system, which can also, you know, hinder or impaired in development in terms of revenue generation. So we'll be looking at these few, you know, problem with the Liberian tax system. How, you know, tax burden. If taxes are high, people begin like find means to avoid or to not pay at all. And I remember when I was in China, you know, and I think we have like a project that we're talking about, you know, tax and, you know, complexity of tax compliance. And I think that's one of the reasons, you know, in Liberia, because if you have like high, you know, cost in terms of, you know, collecting revenues, that's alone can also like shrink the government, you know, revenue intake, because you are spending more to get some to get some. So that's another reason, you know, we don't have like real organized tax structures in Liberia, based on maybe because of, you know, maybe you can say technology, you know, lack of technology or lack of improvement in Liberia. And we also have like tax evasion and informal sector. It should be an it should be an informal sector. We have also lack of clarity, efficient tax administration, lack of incentive for investment, tax law lack technological advancement. So these are just few stuff, and all of the few we are just going to like focus on these three, you know, tax evasion and informal economy, lack of incentives for investment, and tax law lack technological advancement. I think with these three, if these three that were, you know, tackle, and government having to work on these three can lead to revenue, you know, economic growth and revenue, and, you know, higher revenue intake. So tax evasion and informal sector. Remember, in Liberia, we have our economy running on dual economy. Like we have the agriculture and the non-agriculture sectors. The non-agriculture sector, comprises of maybe you can talk about the tourism and other things that don't, that do not relate to Liberia and the agriculture sector. So for tax evasion and informal sector, we look at, for instance, in Liberia now, if you look at the structure of Liberia, we have like 3D sector now. We have the agriculture and the non-agriculture sector. Now the informal sector, where you usually see people, most of our brothers and sisters, they are like doing businesses which are not registered, like, people who sell it to Gafle or use clothes. And one of the reasons for which, people usually like leave other sector and go to the informal sector is that because in the informal sector, the government is not able to account for those who are doing business, and most of them, they are not registered. And the reason for which most people are going there is because of the higher tax burden, or the tax rate. And it can also, incentivize tax evasion and the economic growth of informal sector. This results into reduced tax revenues for government and can hinder economic growth by distorting market competitions and limiting informal sector, the formal sector from development. So if you have like a lot of people living from the private sector, or those who, as and have businesses registered in government, with government, and they feel that the taxes are too high, they begin to divert from those areas into the informal sector, which can also lead to economic distortion and revenue being reduced. Lack of incentives. And I think if you look at Liberia as a whole, one of the reasons most of investors, or most of people are not involved into economic activities or entrepreneurial activities because of lack of investment, especially in the agricultural sectors. If people feel that there is no incentives for doing certain things, people will begin to avoid those areas. And I think, I know each and every one of us, we are aware of that. Most of of the people in Liberia, they feel that if I want to do, like, let me just assume that I want to go into agriculture, what are the incentives? What are some of the things that government is doing to encourage me or to motivate me to do, to go to agriculture, or to get involved into agriculture or other economic activities like investment, innovation, economic development? So the government has to play a certain part in order to get people moving or get people started in certain area. So lack of incentives can also lead to distortion and reduction in revenue, which can lead to lack of economic growth. We also have like weak tax system or tax administration. So the weak tax administration is about no innovation in the revenue sector in terms of technological advancement. Because if your taxes is like a key or back wall, there are a lot of ways people can evade taxes, and if people are beginning to avoid tax payment, you will realize that government revenue intake will begin to reduce. And because of revenues is being reduced, you cannot like want to, think the other ways around, think about, maybe because revenues, people who are not paying revenue, those, the limited people that you have, you want to increase revenue, or you want to increase the taxes, tax alone can also lead to economic distortion. So, lack of technological advancement can also lead to. So for instance, I just give you an example here. Another means in which, people now, I think it's a global stuff. And this is one of the area, one of the stuff I was arguing in my thesis, like, we know that now, because of our global connectivities, how closer we have become over, over the years, especially in the 21st century. Now, most countries, there's no border in terms of, economic activity or business transactions. So assume that someone is in the US, like now I know it's one of the easiest things in Liberia. People usually sit in Liberia and buy some stuff in the US. And most of the people in the US now direct their business activities toward Liberia. So what becomes of, those who are here, like in the USA, have all their business activity directed to Liberia, they are collecting revenue like maybe 5, 6, 10, or 10,000. But the government of Liberia is unable to tax that's such business activities. So what can the government do in our aspect in terms of having the legal right, or having things put into place that can be able to collect every any business activity that is directed towards Liberia. And I think in our tax law there's no such thing there for that will enable the government, because if you can level tax on on individual, you have law that that will back you. Yeah, we have this and you have done this. You cannot just come on nowhere you say you want to tax someone because someone have derive revenue or derive profit from your jurisdiction or your territory. You should have law that will back you in that aspect. I think that's one of the reasons revenue intake in Liberia. It can also be like another reason for which government can reduce the tax rate and diversify the collection of taxes. So in 2000, I think it was in 2018 or 20, there was this particular stuff was like something that was on the global stage. Everyone's like thinking about because of our global connectivities or how connected we have become over the years, that there are certain organizations or certain companies that are collecting revenue from their jurisdiction and they are not paying taxes. So the BEF and the OECD, this is an organization of economic, which is mostly the European Union, and the BEF is like base erosion profit shifting. So the word BEPS is base erosion profit shifting. So actually it was like something that every government became aware of, like we have people who are, or we have companies who are deriving like profit or revenue from our jurisdiction, and we are not able to tax them. So what can we do? So these are some of the things that other countries begin to implement or begin to like legislate, like the French DSTV law and the Indian equalization tax. And most of what those European countries and India was doing is that you miss this amount from our country and we don't have laws that will that will help out or that will back out in terms of levying tax on you. So we need to, have a legislation. And there was a case in which I think it was Google. And yeah, so there was a company that had its, activities directed toward India. So the Indian Revenue Authority, or those who, the entity that is responsible to collect revenue in India, took the company to the Indian Supreme Court. But at the end of the day, they lost the case because they didn't have any legislation, that would back them. Even though the activities of those companies were directed towards them. So and likewise the French, so it was that something that was happening and people begin like concerns about it. So at the end of the final, I think the final action plan, people begin to legislate. And I think that's in that direction, Liberia can also, like, even though we are not getting to the point, where we have like this, this improvement in our country in terms of technological advancement. But I think if we have laws that are, put in place now, before we get there, when in case of anything that happened, like of such, the government of Liberia can be able to like tax anyone who are doing, these type of businesses online. And in doing that, the government of Liberia can be able to like, expand in revenue intake, and also the result can be, economic growth. So the proposal was like, so if an individual is making business and the government of Liberia, want to levy tax, it doesn't need to, go around looking for. They just need to look for people who are in Liberia who, activities are directed towards that particular thing. So my argument, or the thesis was about, having a user P, and a user P is like user, and the P is like a permanent establishment. So the person who is like having economic activity with that particular thing becomes like the permanent establishment. Because before the 21st century, or before, we became globally connected. Every government, or even Liberia, have this rule like permanent establishment. Before a government can tax any individual or entity, the person should have like a permanent establishment within Liberia. So if the person is doing businesses in Liberia, meaning that the person will have like a permanent, location where government or Liberia can go there easily and locate the person. And that was one of the ideas, taxes was built on around the world. But because people knew that now we have so many ways, people can do business without, establishing anything, or having a permanent establishment, we need to have, alternatives. So I think that when Liberia can do such thing, it can also be able to increase the revenue intake, which can lead to economic growth. Agriculture. And in Africa, I think Liberia, we have like 70% of our population are live on agriculture, or that are involved in agricultural activities. And in sub-Saharan Africa, like 60% of the population, they are all small farmers. So you know that bulk of the people live on agriculture. And about 23% as of 2023 of our GDP is attributed to agriculture. And yet, Africa's full agricultural potential remain untapped. Why? We have so many people, of almost half of our population, or more than half of our population, they are involved into agriculture, while our agriculture and sector is still underdeveloped. Even up to now, we still like most African countries, they have become like a import and driven economy. We import almost everything that we eat. So what can we do in terms of agriculture, or what have been some of the stuff that happened to agriculture sector in Liberia or in Africa that caused agriculture or our agriculture sector to be underdeveloped? Or we have so many poverty and deprivation in almost everywhere in Africa or East Sub-Saharan Africa. So we will begin to look at some of the stuff that made the agricultural development in Africa, or especially in Liberia, underdeveloped. So we know that agriculture have played a very crucial role in economic development. Even right after the in most independent, right after most Africa or African countries being independent, agriculture became their main source of revenue, or even foreign currencies. Like we have in Liberia, we are producing cocoa and other stuff, and when we sell them, we have like a foreign, it was another ways of generating foreign reserves or foreign currency. And by doing that, it also contributed immensely to our economy, or to our GDP. It contributed to employment. It contributed to food security, and it also contributed to market leakages and rural development. So the more people, if people in the rural area, they are producing, and those produce are being bought, it also help them, in terms of other economic activities. So if we look at agriculture around the world, even in Africa, or especially in Liberia, as I said, from the opening statement, it was built on a dual economy system, where the reallocation of factors of production from a backward, low productivity agriculture sector to a modern industrial. So you have the agriculture and you have the non-agriculture sector. But one of the reasons for which agriculture sectors is still underdeveloped, or we still have challenges from the 50s up to the 70s, is because right after most of the African countries got independent, they begin to feel that we were producing most of the stuff that were and Africa being a food producing nation. We were exporting more than we were importing. But what's happening? Okay. So, but when this notion came to all that we want to have industrial revolution, most of the independent state by then, or most of the country by then, begin to divert the gain made in the agricultural sector, taking the resources from the agricultural sector, sending to the industrial, because one of the industrial revolution, or one of the industrialize our economy, they begin to divert the resources from the agricultural sector to the industrial sector. And by doing that, the thing that they failed to realize was that they were suppressing, or they were like harming the agricultural sector, where the infant industry, or the industry that they wanted to promote, were actually not not serving as a process of growth, or a means in which they can achieve economic growth. So we have the ISI, which is the import substitution industrialization, which occurred from the 50s to the early 60s, because by then most of the countries in Africa was like already producing, like they were importing more than they were like food producing nations. So after some time, when they started diverting, those resources that they got from the agricultural sector to the industrial sector, things begin to fall apart. And the resources that were invested in those industry, they couldn't accommodate, or they couldn't get the targeted revenue, or the targeted economic growth that they wanted. And moreover, it also served as a disadvantage or a disincentive for those who are involved in agriculture sector. They begin to leave agriculture, and majority, like we have the rural urban migration. People started leaving from the rural area, coming to the urban area, because they felt that those industries, they were paying higher wages as compared to the agricultural sector. That was another reason, that is another reason for which Liberia, economic or agricultural development still want to develop. And as times go by, like the population of 2, 3, 4 years by is not the same thing as the population after 2, 3, 4, 4, 5 years. So when the economic activities or the agricultural activities couldn't accommodate people, or couldn't provide much food for the populations, government started to look for elsewhere, where they would have means of having a balance in terms of food security. So, and in Africa, most of the urban area as the area where most of the politicians or most of our political activities are, and most government or most administration, but then they want to feed, they want to make those urban settled more comfortable in terms of getting vote. So instead of investing back into agriculture, they begin to look for means where they have shut up, and resort. So people begin to import food, and government begin to look for means of having people to import food. And by doing that, the agriculture sector begin to go down, down, down. And because it was not just the agriculture, all the activities that's connected to agriculture, like in terms of infrastructure, road connectivity to where foods are produced, government start to and it came right after that. We were hit by the oil prices in 1970, and by then most of the African countries they got loan from most of the development or the World Bank. But when they were unable, because of the global oil crisis in 1970, another problem came, which was the SAP, which is structural the structural adjustment program. And usually people usually call it like, the Washington Consensus. And the Washington Consensus was that, yeah, you have, because of this, and because of what the government had done, this is what have led to, your economic instability. So in order for us to help you, you have to accept the program on the World Bank, which through the IMF. So they accepted the structural adjustment program, and the structural adjustment program actually it did work in terms of stabilizing the economy, like in terms of fiscal balance, but it actually harmed the agricultural sector, because what the structural adjustment program was telling African government to do is that government should limit its involvement in economic activity, especially agriculture. It should allow the private sector to be the engine of growth. And we know by then in the 60s and 70s, we didn't have strong in the private sector. So by government accepting that, that also lead to the development of the agricultural sector in Africa, because government was subsidizing fertilizer. Government was like procuring or providing loans to farmers in terms of getting involved. So when government stopped providing those incentives, the agriculture sector began to lack. And by doing that, the incentives of people investing in agriculture begin to decline. And agricultural activity begin to decline, but our population still continue to increase. So that alone serves as another step back, or another hindrance to the development of agriculture in Africa, or especially in Liberia, as we experience in that most of our food are imported. Now we have like a lot of economics, or a lot of program now in Africa, and the most recent one is the CADP. The CADP is now currently is the one and I think because of time I'll not just be is now what the Ministry of Agriculture is working on. And the CAD is Comprehensive Africa Development Program. And what this draft, or what this document try to implement is that it try to set out the guidelines for action in achieving poverty and hunger, especially the MDG, the Millennium Development Goal, by stimulating agriculture-based economy through agriculture-led growth. And we know that after, this is not just a new one. We have so many in the 60s, in the early 90s. The pro-growth development, which started in the late 1990s. And most of those things that most of this document, they have not been, fully implemented based on, because most African governments feel that to invest in agriculture will take longer time to yield, result. And in most countries in Africa, like after 4 years, you have elections, and agriculture will take much time in terms of to have. So most of our government officials, they are thinking about short-term result. So, but the thing they fail to realize that the more you begin to input, the more you are suppressing the agricultural development, because you are now investing into roads, in all stuff. So the proposal, right now, what the Ministry of Agriculture is working on is a good one, if actually if they implement it. But my intent on that would be, yeah, we want to have like, agriculture serving as a growth, and which all developed nations have experienced. No developed nation like jump over agriculture serving as a growth process before they can go to industrialization and other things. Agriculture serve as the base, or you can also say that agriculture serve as because in economics they have like balanced growth and growth. So agriculture serve as the balanced growth theory, where you can use agriculture to stimulate other process, or it can serve as means or expand it, because if you have a advanced or well-developed agriculture, it leads to and services, because for instance, if people have produced more food and other things, you begin to see and services like food services, or restaurant begin to. So this just by using agriculture can be all those things. And looking at Liberia perspective, if we really want to like take people out of poverty and get rid of hunger, or even grow and improve our economic growth, agriculture sector is the best way to go, and not just by looking at going for like commercial farming, but by targeting individual, because most of our people live on agricultural activities, by serving by creating incentives where we motivate or encourage people to go through into agricultural activities. And if your government do that, you are not just increasing revenue intake, or you are not just improving economic growth, you are also like putting money into the poor pocket. Let us assume that you want to let's assume that the Liberia government want to invest 1 million. If you invest that 1 million within the urban centers, how many people you think will benefit from that 1 million? Will just be few, because those activities within the urban centers are just few people, because bulk of our people live in rural areas. So if government having to invest that 1 million, because there was a study conducted in Uganda, in Uganda. So, and the result of that study is that if Africa, or if any government want to achieve economic growth, the best thing to do is to invest into, or to target those activities within the rural area, because that's where the majority of the people live, and their activities is on is on agriculture. So anything that is connected to agriculture will not just alleviate hunger and poverty and other stuff, but it will also increase government revenue intake, because when people are involved within those activities, like producing, and people are buying, you put money into their pocket, and not just put money into their pocket, you also like reduce other prices, like, because if you have more people producing food, the price of food will drop. And if the price of food will drop, because even I think everywhere around the world, bulk of our salary will go on food expenditure. So if you are saving, and if you are buying, for instance, you are buying food, and you have been buying food, every month you spend $50, and now food prices are dropping. You are able to save like $10 or $20. Instead of you spending $50, you are spending $30. Now all the extra $30 you are saved, just because people are producing more food and the prices of food are dropped. That amount can be used towards it can be directed towards another activities, or maybe send your children to better school, or have better have the activities, or people going to hospital to do that normal checkup, because they have they are able to save extra amount. So my proposal, what I would say is that if actually we want to improve revenue growth or increase agricultural activities, that government should focus on staple food, especially in Liberia. If you focus on stable food and you have the mechanism put in place where you are investing into agriculture, you are not just like taking people out of poverty, you're not just like alleviating hunger or all that stuff. You are actually like improving revenue generation, you are also improving the lives of the people, and you are also like creating other means where people have money to access other and facilitate that health or even education. And the focus should be on like small farmer, because if you happen to go way back in the system and where we have LPNC or whatever, most of the people that were there, they were small farmers. So small farmers should be the target. And if majority of the small farmers are able to produce, and people are able to buy, food at a cheaper price, definitely you can rest assured that revenue growth is possible, and agriculture will lead to other activities, or bring about industrialization and maybe any other stuff. So in summary, now, like you have heard, how, what are some of the means in which, government can improve, revenue generation to, agriculture. These are some of the stuff, maybe I might, believe, you can be able to explain to someone, what are some of the means that we can, or some of the things that we can do to stop distortion or the economic growth of Liberia. So these are some of the references, whatsoever, like saw on the slide, these are some of the references, I got them from. So thank you so much for the time, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Alfred, for that exciting presentation. That shows that you are really knowledgeable in the area, where you tend to give us the presentation based on the references and detailed historical analysis and stuff. So for all of us that are here, it's a kind of interactive forum as usual. So we can bring up some questions and then see if Bro David can help to address them. And it's a kind of interactive, we can all have some kind of discussion together, not just to listen to him, but if you got another idea as it relates to that. And I see Augustine left a message, and he left a question. I don't know, Peter, Alfred, you can see his message down the chat. When you click on the chat, yeah. So maybe while you go in there, I will just read it. All so right. He said, Bro Davis, thanks for your lecture. After your lecture, would like you to please let me know what you think could be done in Liberia to improve the tax system of many ordinary Liberians, to know the importance of taxes, all right? And how can it benefit? Now, another thing he said is, what mechanism would be put into place to reduce high custom duties on goods, goods importation to Liberia? I'm asking this question because many people now want to prefer importing through Guinea, through Guinea port than Liberia. I know a Liberian who is involved in used car business, and residing in Europe. He has been importing cars through Guinea. I think almost something similar to what he's saying, where people prefer to import their materials through the Guinea port to Liberia based on high taxation. So, having given this lecture, what do you think Liberia needs to do? And how is that affecting Liberia, stuff like that?
All right, I think that's what a great question. And I think there are several ways you can do that. Remember when I was lecturing, I said that, if you have someone, let me just say one can be that through legislation, like having, like it shouldn't be like, what I'm proposing, but something similar, that will target people who have had their business activity directed towards Liberia because they are generating revenues for Liberia, right? So if you have, that legislation put in place, and you have other things, in terms of, improving your strategies or whatsoever within the revenue sector, you can be able to tax those people, because it won't be fair to someone who are established or who have registered their businesses with government paying revenue, and you are on the other end, you are generating the same amount as he is generating, or even more, and you are not paying taxes. It becomes unfair to them. So government can use another, one means of, achieving that through maybe legislation. Another means is that there's a Africa Continental Free Trade Area, I think, agreement. I think that's what done, I think 2018, or it was founded out in 2020, to begin there. So, it's like encouraging, I think actually it's our encouraging our, intercontinental trade. That Liberia can reduce some of those barriers. Like I was telling you, like the taxes, maybe the tax, because of the taxes in Liberia is too hard. So people prefer going to Guinea, where the taxes are, or the importation on goods are very hard. So if government feel that, or if another way government can reduce that is to reduce the custom detail. And if you reduce the custom detail, because you cannot reduce your revenue intake, because government already want to increase. So if you want to reduce custom detail, government needs to find means. Government need to find means, that the dollar loss here can be found in another area, and you can do that by what I just suggested, and reduce the custom detail, and diversify the revenue and the revenue activity by implementing in the legislation. So if you are, let's do that, the custom detail is like maybe annual, let's just say 10 or 15%. And if you put a legislation where you can be able to target all other people who have have business activity directed towards Liberia, you reduce that custom detail by 5%. That 5% that you reduce it by, you can be able to to get that 5% from the legislation that are being implemented. Another means is that government can create economic free zone area. That what that Liberians countries in Africa are doing. You can see it in Ghana. You can see it in other countries. Create a special economic zone area where people bring or ship through that particular area. Taxes on those goods will be very less. That's another means we can increase our revenue to improve economic growth. I hope I was able to answer his question.
Yeah. So I hope, Gus, did that answer your question? Are you following up?
He can unmute himself.
Yeah, I think he muted himself. Yeah, so I was taking some few notes. Yeah. So I will also have some few other concerns as well, because the first thing is you made mention of a few other things that I think is very important in our entire tax system, because initially you set up the historical basis from the 50s to the 70s, how taxation was like and how it affected economic growth in the country.
Mm.
And then later, when it came down, after the 70s to the 80s, you said agricultural investment was then getting reduced, but population was increasing.
Yeah.
All right. And now these are some of the things that eventually led to the rest riot because no sufficient food for people, and you having instability coming into the country because if we had our own rest, nobody going fight for power, killing one another, and then civil war coming. So these are things that I really admire as it relates to your presentation, the analysis you did. But one of the things I actually want to speak on is, as it relates to taxation, how the banking sector or national bank or agriculture banking sector could actually be of help in improving our agriculture sector, especially maybe putting few local farmers to have like form a cooperative, establish merchandise farming. How can banking sector be able to finance them, give them equipment and all those kind of stuff? What is your own advice in that area?
I think maybe you and I was maybe I think that before I heard that before I think in the 60s or maybe 70 or 80 they have Liberia Agricultural Development Bank.
Okay.
Yeah, before the turning. So what in the US, what let me just like use the US to answer your question.
Right.
In the US, because I'm studying agriculture, the government, like if you have read about the Green Revolution, is one of the debate area now in the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and like a lot of research have been done there. Like that's another reason that the US became more like now US is like one of the higher producing food nations in the world. They produce import food or export food to other countries because the government of the US like invested so much up to now to the extent that when a farmer get a loss in your tax in your year, that amount that the farmer lost, the government of the government of Liberia or the government of the US will help them, like provide some funding for them based on what they are lost, or maybe they didn't have like a good produce for the year due to other climate activities. The government of the US usually like fund them. So maybe if we have like a special amount set, or maybe we can like create special budget or whatsoever that be allocated for farmer, that will just like to encourage them. Like if you produce, it will let us know that you want to invest into agriculture, and if you go into agriculture and you do this, maybe based on maybe bad produce or because of weather or whatsoever, we will be able to like maybe not just everything, but we'll also like encouraging. We'll be able to like fund 25% of what you have lost. Because if you do that, people will begin to like to see, like when I said like incentive. If you have government is not providing the incentive, people will not want to do anything. They will not want to venture into anything that anything maybe want to go through anything that happened to me. I'll be the one that bear the cost. So if the government is doing that, or the agriculture sector or the agriculture bank that the government has set up doing that, can also help to stimulate economic growth and also improve food production. Another means can be fertilizer, which most of the country, like when I was saying about the structural adjustment policy, that was one of the things that the World Bank or whatever was telling the government that you guys were involved into in the economic activity of your country, that led to the instability. So government was like providing like subsidy and loan and fertilizers for for farmers to grow more food. So when government stop doing those things, people begin to divert from from agriculture sector to another sector where they will, maybe the rates will not be too high, even if it's only because agriculture is not the easy stuff. Yeah. So maybe the government can like set up the old agriculture ban that we had before, what will give people loan, and those loans maybe you will not just like you'll be able to pay like 1% every year on the loan or whatsoever they give you. That alone can help to encourage more food production.
Okay, thank you so much for that analysis. Thank you so much. So I got a question here from Edwin Y. Molba. So Edwin is saying, what effect does the exchange rate of US to Liberian dollars have on the Liberian market, and how is it calculated? So I think, yeah, so maybe you can give a highlight on this one.
All right, I think, and if one of the reasons for which most African countries they are already struggling is because of the devaluation of the currency. If you want to destroy anyone, you just devalue your currency. Especially let me just say that it's good. It's good, if that particular country is industrial countries, in that industrial countries, and they are producing most of what they eat, or most of the things that they want, they usually produce it. Like take for instance China. China devalue our currency and they really like got the benefit of it because other countries are able to like buy more from you as compared to other countries that are producing the same thing, and have a high value currency. Like the US, that most of the European countries used to buy from the US, but when they saw that China was putting the exact thing, and the Chinese yuan is like, I don't know, 6 Chinese yuan to $1 US. People started going to China. So if you have industrial like country or countries that produce both of things, your devaluation is good for you. But if you are a country like like Liberia, if your currency is weak, it put hardship on the people. Because one will like maybe that's when that's only score 20, one will have like low for how much the rate is 185 now, right?
More than almost 190.
Yeah. So one will have low for on the home that to go and buy that particular stuff in like it put extra burning on the economy. So devaluation, it leads to like if they just doing that, they just relate to agriculture. So I want to buy machinery. We don't produce machinery, right? So that will be a huge sum of money. If I have to gather so much Liberian dollar to buy or to go for machine that will be able to help me to improve my farm productivities. So devaluations is one of the key. It's one of the reasons most West African, let me just use most West African countries are struggling. You can see in Nigeria. Yeah, and both of them be listening to their lawmakers of whatsoever because they devalue our currency so much to the extent that they are putting extra burden on the people. So devaluation.
So somebody, there's a question here from August. It says, what's the impact of devaluation of your currency when you are not exporting anything?
But that's what I just said. If you're not an exporter, as I said, I just use industrialization. If you are not an exporter and you devalue your currency, like most, that one I'm not just not only just most African countries have become like import-driven economy. Even the Ghana and Nigeria, most of that's what they produce come from outside. So
So that means the more you import things in the country, your money is going outside your country.
Yeah, the low reserve that you already got through areas that we have passed through in Liberia, we sell, get foreign currency. So if we are just having small area where foreign currencies are coming, and we have so many area where we are importing something, so that money that we just got from the area like Firestone and other and money company, will use that money to send it outside. So when we send those money outside, what we have is Liberian dollar. So the more Liberian dollar you have in your economy, the weaker your currency become. So like the more reserve you have, the stronger your currency become. So that if you remember during every factor, they will have the public auctions, like they have a interval, but then I was in the UL, like we have I'm going other people from the central bank. They have like a interval, like doing anything from I think from 100 to 90. So they have that interval. When the extreme rate is between 1 to 90, the government does nothing because they feel that it stays safe. So when the Liberian dollar begin to like go above 90, I just gave you a scenario. I'm not exact. Like 91 to $1, the government of Liberia begin aware that the currency is becoming weak. And if the currency is becoming weak, they put more pressure on the ordinary Liberian. So, but then the central bank will come up and auction some money. I think you are aware that you can also go to the rest of public bureau, get them some US dollar, take the Liberian dollar out of the market. So if you have more US dollar on the market, your currency becomes strong. So that's another mean, like to tell you that the weaker your currency becomes, the more pressure you put on the ordinary Liberian.
Yeah.
The more currency, the more foreign reserve you have, the stronger your currency becomes.
Okay, so I think we have another question here. It's a little bit specific about the APM terminal at the port. Gus is asking, it's a Sierra Leonean company. So which is okay. So he said we have the APM terminal port at the port of Liberia, at the port of Monrovia, especially Freeport. So the company has done nothing to improve the sector and mostly to discourage importers on a daily basis by leveling extra charges and stuff. So it's a Sierra Leonean company. So what do you think the next government can do to deal with this issue if the current administration is changed? I mean, that's the kind of question they're asking. So just in case there is a change in administration and stuff, because these are administrations that are doing their way of doing things, but what can they do?
Yeah, I think that question is actually a good one. It's a broad one, but
yeah, it's
you have because most of ATM terminal is like a concession, company or government sign contract with them. So if the government of Liberia sign contract with them for like 25 years, even the next government they cannot do it. The only thing they do, they can evaluate and take into consideration certain aspects and tell them, we need to do it, see the improvement of this and this, or maybe they are corporate social responsibility or whatsoever the government is not, the two government, and they are not doing it. The new government can tell them, no, he said that you are not doing this. And by doing that, if you have enough evidence, you can revoke their lesson or whatsoever Tony he gave them. And you go into a new agreement. That's another means. And another means is that what I said in that we don't, if we just like have of, I don't know if what Joria said wanted, it was another good idea, even though I don't, I don't agree with most of them, but if we have another port, because we have another port like the port of Bigana, where you make it like a free import duty, you are going to, I mean, you are going to like generate more revenue, because those people who are bringing goods and other stuff to the country, they are not paying anything. When they bring, they will set up companies, or they'll set up some stuff in Liberia, and whatsoever they are bringing, because they are not being able to pay anything on it, the prices on those things will drop. And if most ship are going to bet on maybe the port of Bicana, what ATM terminal is doing, definitely will begin to like have some reconsideration or think about readjusting, because they will begin to lose like some revenues and other things. So by having the port of Bicana or the port of Sando being like a free economic zone where ship can go and dock there, and what will not be able to pay anything, will also like put pressure on ATM terminal, the Freeport Barrier, which is the biggest port, to reduce some of those charges that they are putting on those companies that are bringing or they are importing goods into Liberia.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I think time is also fast spent. We're going like 8:30 now. So one of the things you have made mention of is as it relates to the they get considered to be some level of monopoly, because where almost all of the goods have been imported, to the free port of Monrovia. It makes it difficult. It makes it easier for APM terminal to exploit people. But if the same policy there is not the same as what is in Buchanan, a lot of people start importing their goods through Buchanan port, and it's not happening on this side, then they will also have to see reason to see how they can reduce certain things.
Yeah, exactly. So, just assume that what happened to when we have Lone Star Cell. One other company begin, Lone Star Cell were exploiting people. Like if you buy like $5, you don't use it for certain time, they'll take it. But when other company begin to join, like in Liberia and other company, single begin like $5, they drop and all things, because the more people you have, the more company you have, the better welfare for the people.
Yeah.
So if you have like just one or two companies, those companies can also like form a monopoly. Like they have like go through on a collusive agreement, where they will agree on certain price, and at the end of the day, you don't have any other option. You have to go. Right. But if you have like plenty of company, definitely will bring pressure. A lot of people have a job. Like the more I redeem my price, you feel that you are losing color, you drop your price. And I know that to on the same level, but I understand I'll drop my own small again, just like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me join in quickly. I love that point he just raised, right? Yeah, but I think one of the problems we have with our system, like the government, like sometimes they go in a kind of deal with certain organization or entity that actually prevents other people from coming in. So as a result, you have like there'll be no competition within the system. Then now company will be there like exploiting the citizens. Yeah. So I think that's a great point. That's why we actually need a kind of system, because like what is happening right now, like the services, the internet service provider that actually providing is not up to standard, and I know.
Yeah.
So if we have a kind of government in place that will try to put in system, so there'll be a kind of competition within the system. I think some of these things will be minimized. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, but I think I don't know whether there are people who still question.
Yeah, somebody,
yeah.
that look at the chat area. That I think somebody should still have another more question there. Ask.
Okay, but I don't know which one. Okay, because there's what's a recommendation for the improvement of the Liberian economy?
No. Yeah. Okay, so the person asking about change. I think petty money changer or budget money change to create the stability of the country's economy. Or do you think the foreign exchange sector need to be visited to reduce, the number of foreign exchange bureau? That's one of the things. Because one of the things, I mean, the president is making some sense, right? Because let's take, for example, in China, if you go there and you need a United States dollars, you can only get the United States dollars from the bank.
Exactly.
And there are certain amount you can only like. There was a time I wanted to send around $2,000 when I wanted to get my property here, my piece of land. I could not change. I changed that $2,000 over 4 days time. Every day you can only change $500 on your passport. Or you take another person, you change 500 on your passport, you change 500 on that person's passport. So like that, the foreign currency would not overflow the economy. I think that's something similar to what the president is asking here.
Yeah, and to buttress what I just said, I think we need to revisit our. I think it has been something that overdue. Even when I was in Europe, like most of those guys who were at central banks to talk about that the dual currency is one of the things that is hindering our growth. So if we really want that, I know like at first, maybe the first 1-2 years will not be easy because we are, but we
are too used to it.
We need to get rid of the dual currency. We need to have the Liberian dollar as a bigger tenor instead of US dollar and Liberian dollar going here and here. Because if you see that these days most of the people in Liberia, when they are charging, they don't charge Liberian dollar.
No way.
They don't charge Liberia, but it become like very common to all. And someone say $10.
Even your own combo shop.
Yeah, it's just be that when someone say $10, but if someone were actually charging in Liberian dollar, but if someone charging maybe 50,000, but when the person put it in like in US dollar, it becomes like very small to you because Liberian dollar began to use it. But when the person put it in Liberian dollar, you just know. Because when I was in Nigeria, most of what the people do is you go like certain area, designated area, you go and get internet, but everything is in naira.
In naira.
So that alone can also serve as another means of reducing hardship on the people. We need to get rid of the dual currency that US dollar. The Liberian dollar should be the only legal tender that's allowed. If you want to because and another means of another way in which people the US dollar or the Chile usually going on is that I remember when I was in Liberia, you have certain entity that desperately need of Liberian dollar. We'll just go and give some of those money changer boy on the sidewalk. With the rate is rate is 70, you take the biggest 75. Because he need put US dollar. And you will see that when the next person see that the guy have and move from 70 to 75, all the other people around there you see that the rate will change. Because of one person action, because he's in desperate need of US dollar. But if we have everybody going to to the commercial bank or the whatsoever they can get the US or just the bank, you will see you have some level of control.
Definitely.
Yeah, you have some level of control because the rate will be like steady or stable for a certain time period before even central bank or Liberia can factor into inflation and all of that. We can put it on. But because we have so many people or some desperate business people who need some US dollar, they are the one pushing the exchange rate too high.
And another thing that will also do that is the electronic monetary system, where the mobile money, the orange money we're having, is being used. You know, when I say it's being used, where when I'm selling, for example, I'm selling toilet tissue. You come to my shop, you buy my toilet tissue from me on my mobile money.
Yeah.
Then I don't need to go and withdraw the money. I leave the same money on my phone and go to the store and go buy new toilet tissue from the fuller man down Waterside and bring it and put it back in my shop. Then that fuller man too use that same mobile money, that same electronic money, and carry it to send job to the bank. If he importing it, the bank getting the US value, then he send it out of country and import it. So that means we don't have to use this Liberian dollar that can tier. We only using the electronic money system. I mean, this is one of the things too that will reduce some of these things.
Yeah, it can also serve as, you know, control. It can also stabilize the economy, because you know exactly, the circulation of the US dollar on the market through those those payment systems. But if you have money that people hand to hand, most of the figures like central bank usually give, like, we have so and so like right now on the market is based on what those commercial banks have, but it's not like what we have in our bureau, stuff.
In our various stores and things, you know that sometimes somebody can just go to China, produce this Liberian. You know that Chinese companies, man, what you can get a Chinese man a sample, he can produce it. The Liberian dollar you carry to the Chinese factory in Guangzhou, they will produce the exact money. Big guys probably continue and come and spread it what else. But if you only using electronic money, mobile money here and there, you're not going to bring different money from anywhere and can infuse it into it. Look at all the fake money we have in the Liberian dollars. And all these ones can bring the inflation. So, I mean, we have a lot to that we could discuss for the whole night. But anyways, if you got any statement to conclude on, we can just conclude and for this. Or
guys, I think I think my hands has been up for a while, but I've not been given a chance.
You're so sorry.
Sorry,
go ahead. I just seen it.
You can see on the screen my hand is
up.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, sorry for
you. Go ahead.
Okay, firstly, I want to say thanks to you guys, especially the leadership of this Deneco program. And I want to say hats up to our speaker, Brother Davis. I want to say thank you for what all you've taught us this evening. The last question that I asked regarding petty exchanger, Elon Rosa, the Foreign Exchange Bureau, and what have you, it's all because of the poor economic system we have in the way things have gone bad, and it started from the beginning and it is still going very worse. These guys, like I said, these guys have their own rate. They don't go by Central Bank of Liberia's rate. If Central Bank says, for instance, 140 should be the exchange rate of $1 US, the guys will say either 160 or 165, because anyone, there is no control. Anyone can just take box from their shop and place it on the road and begin to exchange. No control, no regulations. In other countries around the world, you will not see too much proliferation of exchange bureaus. Those are certificated people, and the people work directly with the central bank of their countries. They go directly by the central bank rate. If you go to other countries, if the central bank says the rate should be, for example, 120, exchange bureau will change for 110 because they want $10 profit. They will change for below the central bank rate. But in our country, it is different. Things are just upside down. Someone will want to go to Guinea right here to buy their goods. If the exchange rate is 150, they say they want 170. And people will gravitate to them, and the US will go to them. There is
Hello?
thousand $500 bill. He produces this money and bring them into the country. Anytime you go to exchange from that man or you go buy from that man, he will not give you anything less than $500 bill or $1,000 bill. He sells fuel. He sells cell phones in Morovia here. So they have just polluted the system. Sometimes if he gets ready, he will put money in bags in his car, going up and down. If the money exchange rate is like 170, like it is 190 in some places, he will be changing for either 240 or 250 per dollar. Just spoil the money and waste that type of money into the economy. And they have been arrested. Some of them have been arrested in Bonjama and other places. Nothing they are doing to them. The new money that people just produce, my brother, the counterfeit is too much now in the country.
The 1,000.
Nigerians. So we really, really need to restructure our economy and see how strenuous measures be taken in order for things to go on well with us. And once more, I want to say thank you to the administration of this program, Dr. Wiako, and my colleague, Mr. Dacre. I want to say thank you to you guys and thanks to our speaker of the day. Thank you so much. May God bless us all.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for highlighting that. I think to just buttress what you said, it's just what I told and something I don't know when we didn't recognize you. I was just telling them, you know, one of the reasons that we can get rid of those kind of other things by just those who inflating our rate is just get rid of the US dollar. If you get rid of the US dollar, everyone is directed towards the commercial bank. You won't have any problem, you know, someone getting up because most of the guys, they are desperate because they want to buy like their goods, and if they feel that if they go with the normal rate, it will take them longer time to get what they want, the US dollar that they want. So they just go and increase the rate. So if you get rid of the US dollar as another legal tender, I think that problem might be, we might have control over that problem. And Samuel, I don't know if you have anything, maybe I can just close.
Yeah, so I don't have anything so far. I think many thanks. I think Dr. Wiako has also spoken. So we say thank you so much on behalf of the School of Continuing Studies. We extend our greatest appreciation to you for the time, the expertise shared with us. And we really hope to see you back again, one day, maybe with a continuation, because there are a lot of things that was left that we not talk about because of the time.
Yeah.
When it comes to, raw urban road system, why the BCADP and all these ones, we can't continue it now. There are a lot of things we still have to talk about, how it could be able to work and how special economic zones can help Liberia, like we have it in other countries like China and stuff. But we will still have we will still think about it and see if we can re-invite you to come and drive us through some of those.
Yeah, my doors are all open. And Dr. Wiako, thank you for this great platform, and also thanks to my brother and Samuel. Thank you for giving me the invitation.
Okay, all right. So bye.
Yeah. So thank you again to everyone, and also to our speaker for the day. So just a quick information. So the recording will be available. We have our YouTube channel, so it will be available maybe by tomorrow. Upload them, and you can be able to share with other people. That people who didn't have the opportunity to attend today can be able to rewatch it. It will also be available on our website. Yeah. So let's see, as like you all, like everyone or most of you are aware, like we are still at the beginning, but we striving to see how best we can make learning like accessible for everyone, and the people to be up, because like some of the information that we share on the platform, like some of us when we were in Liberia, we didn't have like some of these opportunities to be but to hear from people, like share their present experiences. So these are some of the driving force behind SES, to see how, because there are lots of things, to be honest, there are lots of things I don't want to say maybe we don't know or we are unaware of in Liberia. So many things going wrong. So the best way we can be able to actually solve some of these problems is through awareness of continual learning, self-development. Now we are in a political era, and you see everyone is jumping. Most of them have forgotten, and after election, you see people be complaining, "Oh, government's not doing this one." Yeah, but this is the time when everybody sit and be able to reflect and see who will actually be a kind of representation of the country. For right now, people are not thinking in that direction. Everyone focusing on something more tangible, what the benefit they can be able to get from a political leader. Yeah. So thank you. As Sam said, maybe in a very near future, you can come again and then have another seminar or webinar with us. And yeah, I think that's it from me. Thank you. It was great. And the recording, like I said, will be available. You can be able to share with other people too. Yeah.
All right.
So that's all from me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
If you want to close it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you can end it up. You can end it for us.
Yeah. So that's it.